Where the fuck is McClay?
Dude, I can't believe it.
I fucking dropped my fucking phone down there.
I can try to get it on there, get it.
It slid down here. Oh god. I hate fucking asking you to do that, but fuck.
This is the Bogcast, episode 90. I am the six-shooter Jesse James with Jesse James Comics.
Awesome. And then you can just throw it over here. Oh, perfect. The Bogcast, episode 90. Jesse James from Jesse James Comics. All right. Action. 90.
Awesome. This is the Bogcast, episode 90. I am your host, Keith Obed, with my co-host, Brian McClay. We are brought to you by Bang Salon. Come get all your hair needs, including cuts, natural colors, vivid colors, extensions, shampoo and stylings, all under one roof at Bang Salon. Find and message Bang Salon on Instagram at Bang Salon, at BANGDSALON. Use promo code
Bogcast
for 20% off your first visit. So come on down and get banged by Jordan. But if you really try to bang her, I'll fucking kill you. Cool.
All right. Big shout out to Mellow by Design CBD. They were gracious enough to send us a nice little sample pack for all of our guests, and we're loading them up in the Ladmo bags to try and see if they help anybody. So this is all just CBD. It's not activated, so no THC. So if you have any aches or pains, or you just want to try and be a little bit healthier, CBD is the way to go. The future will just get brighter for CBD. And it's a great company, Mellow by Design. So make sure you guys check them out, mellowbydesign.com. And also check us out on Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, all your favorite podcatchers, iTunes, and Google Play. Make sure to like and subscribe.
And also Patreon.
Oh yeah, we got a new Patreon going, so make sure you guys. This is for the people that always contact us and say, "Hey, we'd like to help out. How can we help out?" This is how you guys can help out. If it's just something that you think that we're doing a good job, you pick a tier if you like it. There's all kinds of goodies there. So patreon.com/thebogcast. Yep. And tell us what you think. Let us know if you guys want us to add more cool stuff. Get your own Ladmo bag. There you go. So, we're really excited today. I've been trying to get him on the podcast for a long time. We finally, worlds collided, and we finally got him on. A big friend of mine, Jesse James from Jesse James Comics.
Hey guys, I am excited to be here. I'm ready to rock and roll, sling some comic book talk here, or whatever we're then talk about. Let's do it.
So Jesse was integral in me getting back into comics. When I was out of comics for a long time, I think probably from like age 15 to 25, 24, I was out of comics completely.
Drugs.
Yeah, that was, that will do it. That will do it. And I got back into comics. I was driving down a street and saw a little like a swap thing in a church. Went in to check it out thinking, there might be something in there I don't need for the house. Saw comics, got back into comics, and I met a good friend, Kyle Stinson. You guys all know Kyle. Kyle's been on the show before. Kyle from Absolute Geek Podcast. I become friends with Kyle. Kyle goes, I'm going to take you to the best comic book shop in town. And he takes me to Jesse James Comics.
Oh, nice. And
then I meet Jesse James Comics, and my whole world changes because I found my first true home of a comic store. I'd never, back when I was into comics, it was Atomic Comics was the place, and Atomic had multiple stores and this and that. So I never really had a true home for a comic store. And when I found your place and I got introduced to you and I met you and I found out what you're about, it was like, this is the place. And one of the things that I think was so important about that is how you talk about karma. Tell us your thoughts on comic karma.
Comic karma is a very simple thing. I think you have to understand that there's no such thing as a bad comic book. I mean, it's what the customer likes. And so the notion is when you open up a comic book store, the first thing they tell you is you got to carry Superman, Spider-Man, Captain America, Avengers, and X-Men. Oh, because that's what everybody buys. But what happens to the other 90% that buy everything else? And so we wanted to create a comic book store that actually was for everybody and wasn't for, well, this is a key book or this is what everybody's collecting. We wanted to say, well, let's show you some new stuff, or let's retroactive your mind to books that you bought back in the 90s or in the 80s. And so it's very important to bring that into the mix. We didn't even carry new issues the first 2 years. I had actually opened across the street or down the street from Atomic Comics, so I knew we had to do everything opposite. And the first thing was obviously customer service and giving them great customer service and really listening. And if someone asked for Turtles, I wasn't showing them the new X-Men that came out because someone died in that. And so I think that's kind of the Jesse James philosophy, is there's no such thing as a bad book. And if you can teach that, I think it opens the doors to customers to be open to a ton of stuff. Whether, when we started carrying new issues, and all of a sudden out of the 30 independent publishers, all of a sudden we were #1 sellers for 29 of them, because we knew that people wanted something different. Yeah. So that was the focus.
And not only that, one of the things Jesse does, and I've seen this multiple times in person, guy will walk in and go, hey, I have a long box, and he'll go, hey, I got some comics I want to sell you. And Jesse will go, basically he'll say, if I don't want them, I'll tell you a place that does.
Right.
There's a great shop down here. There's a great shop down here. There's a great shop down here. He's always been good to tell other people about our community. You can shop at Jesse James, but if we don't have it here, we'll tell you a place to go. He's never.
Every place should be like that.
Yes, and customers can feel that, they know that, and it makes them endear themselves more to him, because he wants to make this community better. Right. I mean, that's the bottom line, is community.
Yeah, I think community is very important. When I first opened up the door, I wanted to be part of Phoenix Comic Con, and I had called Matt and said, Matt, I just want to take out the trash. I just want to be part of this. Now, I didn't know 2 weeks later I'd be running the comic book side, basically. But
what year was this?
This would have been 2010 through 2012 is when I ran it, and ran the comic book side.
And this is when it was up the street from Atomic, or?
No, this is the comic convention. So this would be downtown.
I see.
Okay, downtown convention. And so what you want to do is you want to be part of the community, but you also have to understand being part of the community is being part of everything. So it's not about bad talking your competition. It's about sending them to your competition, your fellow comic book stores. When I opened, there was 31 comic book stores in town. We're down to about 12. That doesn't mean that you sit there and say, oh, we outlasted these people. It's how do you help those 12 stay open?
Yes.
And that's what your focus is. So I think you need to be part of your community, and then you also have to really believe it, that you're part of your community. You just can't do it just to say, well, if I do this, then I'll meet XYZ. Well, you do it and you just stay in the background. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the important part, to be part of your comic or any type of community. So
yeah. All right. Let's talk about how you got into comics.
Okay.
I love your story about initially getting into comics, and I think, tell me if I'm wrong, I think that this is kind of what implanted the whole community and treating everybody the way you treat them, is how you got started in the comic business.
Yeah.
Or community.
Just really quick, any cough from here on out is a cannabis cough.
Yeah, we got you.
Make that clear.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. So basically, it all started me as being a skater, and I was skating down this street after school, and I just happened to stop in front of this store, but I didn't realize I was standing in front of the door. And this gentleman came out and said, hey, can you move a little away from the door? Me being a punk and not really caring what he said, I moved like 2 inches. And he came out and he said, if I give you this comic book, will you just leave the store area? And I said, sure, no problem. So I went home and I read this Avengers 129 1,000 times, upside down, sideways, read every ad. And I said, okay, I got to start collecting comic books. And at that time, I'm 12 years old. So where you then get your money from? So they had 10-cent boxes. And so what I would do, my parents would give me $1, and I'd ride my Huffy sports bike with all the foam pads all over the place and to school, and pull over at Safeway and buy 4 packs of Bubblicious for 25 cents. And then at lunch, I would pimp out these packs of Bubblicious for 50 cents each. So I'd make my $1 for lunch, and I'd go across the way and I'd get my 10 comics. To the point where I was so obsessed that I would practice crashing my bike and tuck and rolling to protect my comics. So we would have beds on the side of the sidewalk doing this. And so anyways, I was in there one day and gave my 10 comics, and guy walks in and he walks to the back and he grabs this Batman #4 off the wall and walks out. So the owner's wife comes in and says, "Oh, we sold the Batman #4." And he goes, "No, I thought you sold it." Well, I said, so I turned around at 12 years old and said, "Well, your buddy came in. I guess he's borrowing it." I didn't know about stealing or anything like that. So they started yelling and screaming. And so Mary came out and said, "Jesse, we need to talk to your dad." And my dad, growing up, he worked for the mafia on the Strip. He was one of the first pit bosses. So he worked on the good side of the mafia family. So he wasn't really someone that you approach and say, "Hey, your kid's stealing comic books from us." So I'm like, well, you can talk to him, not realizing that at the end they were offering me a job, but they didn't know how to offer a 12-year-old a job. Yeah. So my dad came in and said, "Okay, starting tomorrow, you're working at the Friendly Neighborhood Comic Book Store. You're working for comic books, bags, and boards. That's how you're going to get paid." And it just evolved into this very cool. You couldn't write a book about it. If you wrote a book, people would say there's no way it happened this way. 3 weeks later, they got Jack Kirby doing a store signing, and I'm watching the line for Jack Kirby. I'm having dinner with Jack Kirby. 2 weeks later, I'm at San Diego Comic-Con for the very first time in 1983. I haven't missed one since. And to think at 12 and 13 years old, you're just trying to learn how the Green Lantern ring works. You're not really prepared to be standing by this great guy and watching people cry while he's signing their books. And you go to this convention.
Did he have a significance to you at that time?
No.
So you were just seeing everyone else reacting to him, and that had an effect on you.
Yeah, sure. And at that point, I didn't even know who he was.
Yeah.
And as we were having dinner, he had said to me, I just bought Avengers 172, which has Hawkeye on the cover, but he had said to me, "Well, who's your favorite artist?" And I said, or team. And I said, "Well, I said, what did I say? He said, "Who's your favorite hero?" And I said, "Avengers," because that's the only thing I really was collecting back then. And he said, "No, I meant hero." And at that time it was Captain America, but I had just bought 172 and I could only picture this Hawkeye on the cover. So when I said Hawkeye, it blew him away, because no one says to Jack Kirby, "Who's your favorite hero?" "Oh, Hawkeye." In 1983, come on, he's getting beat up by everybody most likely. And so he said, what do you want to do in the future? I said, "I'm going to be a comic book store owner. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." And it started from there. And then I went through regular life in corporate America. And I always knew that I wanted to open up a comic book store, but it came back down to the Friendly Neighborhood Comic Book Store in Las Vegas, Nevada. In fact, Mary Heiner just passed away a couple of weeks ago, and it brought back all these memories. But you start to realize when you look at that picture from 38 years ago, the overhead picture, and it's me, and I'm serving these 12 through 18-year-olds. And now I own a store serving 35 to 60-year-olds who were those 12-year-olds, and so
great point.
Yeah, it's simply been a great start. And I think when you're talking to people, and I was very fortunate that the store owners understood the value of pictures, because most people didn't back then, and so to see these pictures, us fighting over AF-15,
great picture,
and it's $400, we're like, oh man, if I could only work, 200 hours, I could afford to get that book, and so I was brought up in that, and so my job is to inspire people to understand that comic books are about the now, it's about the past, but it's also about your experience that makes comic books great.
Yes, and that's exactly what I got, because Jesse knows everything about comics. He has a
Okay,
collection.
like just really quick.
Yeah.
That's what I think about you. Like to me, I feel like you probably like, yeah, right. No, but you like, I feel like I've met a lot of people in the comic books, and no one has blown me more than anybody as far as
blown
knowledge.
you more.
Yeah.
Blown me more than you.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, blown me away more than as far as your knowledge of comics.
Well,
And
it's
for you
'cause
to
I
say
love
that
it.
about him, fuck.
Yeah.
You must be like the fucking Yoda.
Well, the other thing is that Jesse's collection is mind blowing, but he will never sit there and act like he knows more than you. He'll never sit there and
that's
say,
cool.
"I have a better collection than you."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's and
I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
When you go in there.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like if you guys haven't been in Jesse James' store yet, it is amazing.
Fuck yeah.
It is one of the best stores that you'll walk into in the country. But we'll get into that in a few. One of the things that I laugh about with Jesse is some of my best collecting moments, like those moments when you find those buried treasures, have been at Jesse's store.
Oh, yeah.
And Jesse will get this awesome collection in, and you know, most comic stores will go through the collection and then pull everything out and then let people sit. Jesse will set the collection on the table and go have at it.
Right.
Go have at it. You'll bring up books to him and he'll put them in piles, and you know, he'll give you the most fair prices. Listen, he knows he did this, so I'm not telling him anything that he didn't know he did. But me and Kyle walked in there one day. we go. He gets a new collection. We go through the collection and we start pulling out books that are like super mega keys, and we're like, he'll never want to sell these to us, so we'll just pull them out and let him see them. We walk up to the counter. One of the books is, I'll just give you an example. One of the books is X-Men number 90, Uncanny X-Men 94, which is like the first full appearance of the X-Men, the new X-Men team in X-Men. It's Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, all those people. That's, you know, one of the most expensive books in the run. Kyle goes, we found this in there. We just wanted to let you have it. Jesse, not even thinking, what, you don't want it? And Kyle goes, well, I don't think I can afford it. And Jesse writes a number on it. He goes, how about this? $30.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is Jesse doing that for?
Yeah.
He's doing that because he wants the customer to come to feel like this is his place. And am I right?
Yeah, I think what business is, I think where the comic book business might lose its luster a little bit is, even as an Overstreet advisor, which is the price guide, and I do all the pricing for all the books. At some point, everything's about how much did you pay for this collection, and how much profit do you need to make. And at the end, you have to make sure if you buy 1,000 books, that 1,000 books go. It's not, oh my gosh, I have 10 books and those 10 books are gone, and then we'll just store those $9.90. So my job is to say, well, if I give him this book for $30 and then he goes spends $100 on books that I probably never would be able to sell. And so you kind of got to use that one book to capture everything else. The notion right now that I sell about 5,200 to 5,500 books a week is, if I had to say how many were those keys was probably 3%. Because what you want to do is you want people to get books that they traditionally would never buy. They would, instead of spending $2 on a book, well, I'll save up and I'll get the $10 book. Well, why don't you get five books from us? And then when you do get the key, we'll take care of you. I think a lot of like stories like that, if you look back, if someone was coming in from Ohio, obviously that book wouldn't be $30.
No.
Yeah, but when it gets to your customer base, I think you have to come to a fair assessment of how loyal that customer is, and then how loyal do you want them to be in the future. You know,
how much was that book worth normally?
Oh, that's a couple $100 book easy.
Yeah, it's about a $300-400 book in near mint shape.
Fuck.
So, but I also don't want to be a museum. And
I love that.
Yeah, when you're in the comic book business, adventure or Amazing Fantasy 15s, I've bought 10 in the last 11 years. I own 5. I mean, it's.
And
so when
still reads it?
Yeah, still reads it. Yeah, I still read. I think the first story is better than anything else. But the whole point is you start to learn that you then get this back no matter what. And you then get tons of them back. And so it's about selling your books and not having 5 of the same book. And if you can get your customer coming in constantly, that's the key. And
With
so
the amount of
that's where
books
we're
that
at.
you have coming in, there's chances of that book even coming back, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
so
would.
it's
I
not
would.
like-
Yeah, it's like New Mutants '98. Listen,
Yep.
if you're going to
Yeah.
buy a collection, you're going to have a New Mutants '98.
That's the first
in it.
appearance of Deadpool.
Yeah. First appearance of Gideon and
Oh.
Deadpool. So you're going to get that back.
That
It's-
was in an X-Men?
No, that
No,
was in New
New-
Mutants.
New
All New
Mutants,
Mutants.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Sorry,
it's-
I'm such a noob with all this,
No,
everybody.
that's okay.
That's why we're telling you.
yeah. So you already know you're going to get that. And so, or Amazing Spider-Man 300, you know you're going to get that. And so I think my job is to spend money, get my money back within 24 hours, and then find the next collection. That's our job. We bought a 100,000 piece collection about 3 months ago. We filmed it going into this house, and as we were coming out and driving back, my girlfriend said, "Oh, what are we doing about this collection?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? We already bought it. I'm already thinking about the next collection. We got to go find another collection because we're so positive now versus a year ago when you spent whatever $500, it would take you a month to get your $500 back. Now we're getting our money back within 30 minutes.
Well, let's talk about
what? Yeah.
let's talk about why that is.
Yep.
And this is listen. I've told Keith forever that you are an innovator in this hobby. And one of the things that Jesse has done most recently that is one of the most innovative thing I think he's done is he's said and did it way before COVID, way before all this stuff. He said, I have a ton of customers that are available to me online. How can I get to those customers? And he started
So it's not just keeping it local.
and
It's,
he started a comic book shopping network online on Facebook and YouTube. Well, you're doing YouTube now.
Not yet. We're
Okay.
starting it.
So he started on Facebook where he's got I'll let him explain it, but it's basically has a live show there's a live show every hour, you know, that he's selling books to people all over the world.
Yeah.
And tell us about Comic Book Shopping Network.
So Comic Book Shopping Network started exactly 2 years ago, a couple of days ago in Baltimore. And we were at a convention, and I had just spoken to all the retailers and all the publishers about customer service. We just had I think we had just won the award for best customer service. So we're talking to that. And my good friend Jen King in Texas, we did this kind of a workshop. And after the workshop, everybody left, and it was about social networking. And at that time, I was top of the game at social networking as well. And we
that
decided,
is a game, huh?
Oh yeah, it is a game.
Yeah.
It is. It's a very stressful game.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we talked for about 2 hours about what do we then do a year from now when we have all these orphan customers that don't have comic book stores in their city, and how are they ever going to experience buying comic books other than buying your comics on eBay, which there's zero experience on eBay. And this is coming from someone who has 81,000 feedback with no neutrals, no negatives. So it's a big part of our company. And so what we said was, what if we had a page that had about 10 stores across the nation that were always selling and always open and always selling dollar books, $2 books, key books, new issues, back issues, golden age, silver age, supplies, toys, action figures, Legos, whatever it was. But it was this constant thing. So we created Comic Book Shopping Network, which was derived by me watching JTV one day. I have no idea why I was watching Jewelry TV one day. And this lady was selling this watch, and she said, "This is the best watch we've ever had. It's from Africa, and it's black jewel, and it's this." And I was watching the counter from 1,000 down. And kept on going out. "Oh, we're sold out. Okay, let me show you the next thing. This is the great watch. This is the greatest watch we've ever had on the show." I'm like, "Well, you just said the last watch was the greatest watch." And all of a sudden, she sells out. And I said, "Well, why can't we do that in comics?" And so I started doing these shows at like 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. because I was nervous of not being successful. And all of a sudden, we started selling tons of books, 300, 400, 500 bucks. And we knew that we couldn't do shows all day just with a couple of stores, because you have shipping and invoicing and all the stuff that comes with
it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
It is.
prepping for your show, pricing for the show, making sure a book that you've had in your dollar area all of a sudden is a $100 book that you're up there trying to pitch it for $2, you know, that type of thing. And so as more stores came aboard and they started to have faith.
Is that your phone?
No.
Oh. Is that your phone? Maybe you can. I'm sorry.
No. That wasn't mine, but we will turn it off.
Who
Yeah.
the fuck is?
Yeah.
I don't
So
think it's mine.
as people started having faith in it, and we started to bring all these customers to these live shows, it didn't matter what time they were. It didn't matter who they were. It was the fact that people just wanted to spend money, and they wanted good books. They wanted great comic book therapy. They wanted to experience at their fingertips, and they wanted to be part of a group of people so that when they bought something, everybody's like, oh, that's awesome. I wish that I need that. Oh, you beat me to it. And what it's evolved in is into now a company that sells over 1,000 books a day.
Wow.
On Sundays today, as a group, we'll sell about 2,500 comics. We've just celebrated our 2 years doing shows. We've done over 5,000 shows.
Damn.
I've just celebrated my 500th show.
How long are the shows?
The shows are anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. And it's literally a show comes off, a new show comes on. And it's
the same thing, kind of like you're just holding up the books, and then people are just buying.
Hey, folks, I got this Diet Dr. Pepper. You know, it's $2. There's only 200 million made of these, but we only have one on the show type selling. And what happens, you start to realize there's this new culture of comic book fans that shop 7 days a week.
Yeah, it's great.
You have
and they
to,
don't have to leave their house.
Yeah, they don't have to leave their house. Everybody we
They're
have
in their
on
pajamas. Yeah.
Exactly. Every store we have is so extremely vetted. And then every customer we have, every member we have is vetted. I believe right now we're on for every 3 we approve one. And there's some criteria that we have. And some of them are simple criteria.
I'm kind of confused just on this. You say all these stores, so you just have stores
Around the country.
and you just sign in as that video to sell the comics to that.
Well, they have
market?
to be, they have to be vetted. So Comic Book Shopping Network is like a major Costco, and you have, Levi's here, and you have this, and you have eggs, and you have this. Well, where we are is the same thing. We're all these people in this one warehouse, yet we're in Orlando, and we're in Texas, and we're in San Francisco, LA, Ohio, Florida, you name all these states that we're in.
So while Jesse is doing it in his time slot every night, right after him would be like Jen King has a store in Texas. What's Jen's store called?
Space Cadets.
Space Cadets will be the next store that goes up.
Yep.
And they'll do a show for 2 hours. And then a store after that has that next time slot. And they do that, like on a weekly
That's
schedule.
fucking amazing.
It's genius.
Yeah, and so what happens is you have this customer base that's shopping every single day, every single show. Shows have their favorite customers. What we take great pride in is we have 3,600 plus members that 93% of them buy from us every month. So that's a very high percentage.
Oh, yeah.
Out of our top 10 buyers, 7 are women. And so what we look at is we say, listen, we're very comfortable to everybody. And so our job is to create a third market that does not look at eBay, that does not look at an actual walking into a comic book store, web pages. What they're doing is buying in the moment. We have turned around and made comics that you could literally go and buy on eBay for $2 that we sell for $20, whether it be Awesome Comics or Critters or whatever it is. Why? Because there's a better value to it. And so now we do our shows, and an average show has anywhere from 800 to 1,200 unique viewers per show.
Even at 1 and 2 in the morning.
Yeah. In fact, and the amazing part about it is once you get past 9 p.m. Arizona time, that's prime time. Those shows all average over 1,000 viewers.
All the comic guys wake up.
Yeah, all the comic guys wake up. You got all the, that's the
all night owls
Bad
and shit.
Girl
Like you.
comics. Bad Girl covers come out.
I got a question for
Sure.
you that I've been waiting to pick your brain on this. How do you deal with the shipping?
Right.
Because even like me being somebody that just sells on eBay or
Right.
sells, has a couple friends I'll sell to or da da da. shipping is a pain in
It's
the
a
ass.
fuckload of
Yeah,
work.
Yeah.
and I couldn't imagine having to ship that many books.
I was thinking that
Right.
myself.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to create a service where the customer doesn't have to think about shipping. So we have a very simple, and now every show has their own shipping ways they do it. We are the biggest show. We sell the most on the show, so we have to always be evolving. So what we do, it's $13.99, and you can fill up a short box.
Oh,
And we ship
yeah.
out that short box when it gets to $13.99. Let the customer know. If the customer wants to ship beforehand, they can ship whenever they want. And at that point, the team will designate a day to ship that product. When we were with eBay, and well, we still are with eBay, and we have to ship, I think it was Wednesday, we had to ship something like 130 packages priority, because it was a Kickstarter, or it was actually a Kickstarter, not eBay, and UPS didn't show up with priority stuff. So we don't really have shipping issues. We have more tracking issues, which is what we have to really be concerned about. As you evolve as a business person, everything should evolve as far as packing goes, communications. You learn, on the job, really.
System.
Yeah, a system of, okay, I got 3 books. How
Yeah.
long should 3 books do? I tell people the first time I sold my first book, it took me 20 minutes to package the package. It was a single book because it had to be perfect. Now it takes me 8 seconds to package a package.
Do you have to ever worry about them getting fucked up in the mail?
We have been very fortunate that over the last 10 years, we've shipped out, I think it's 158,000 packages. I think we've had 3 damaged packages.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's
Holy
another thing
shit.
about Jesse. Jesse tracks analytics like crazy.
Yeah.
Holy
He's
shit.
an analytics master, man.
Yeah, it's not really about the outside package, it's how you pack it inside. So your outside package should be able to get damaged, but your inside content should not be damaged.
Well, most people pack like shit.
Yeah, exactly. And
In
My
cereal
girlfriend
boxes.
orders prints of their paintings, and
Yeah.
they always come in
yeah,
fucked up.
and people forget that your sale is not over till the person gets it. So, and in this age where people are doing mail calls live on Facebook, you don't want to be saying, "Oh my gosh, I spent $100. Look at this. Oh,
Yeah, no
it's cut in
shit.
half. Oh, that's great, awesome. Never buy from this guy again." So I go with the concept that do it right the first time. That's
You take pride in it.
yeah. I think you have to
Yeah.
take pride in it. And again, why would you want to double work?
I agree. I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, and when we were with the a certain warehouse and they would short us or stuff would come in damaged, and they would call us the next day and say, "Oh, we next day aired that. We took care of you." Well, no, you didn't. If you had done it right the first time, that's how you take care of someone.
And you have a relationship. I'll be I've been in a store many times, and the postal service worker will come in, and Jesse's got a relationship with his postal service worker too. So that's another very important thing. If you're shipping that many packages and you need to have a relationship with your postal worker.
Yeah.
Even us as like people that just do stuff at home, I'll put a $20 bill in my box every once in a while.
When do you do that?
Around Christmas time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't get in my mailbox.
It's a very simple concept. You're kind to your UPS driver, USPS driver. You should know your state tax collector. You should be talking to them every quarter. Hey, how's it going? That type of deal. You just need to build relationships because they're part of building your business.
Yes.
And so I think we haven't been open for 3.5 months because every company understands why. So we don't have to worry about it. My landlord, I have a great relationship. I don't have to worry about it right now. But if you run your business about yourself and nothing else, and you don't involve your community in it, other brands, other companies, then that's why you then find yourself always in a hard position when stuff like this happens.
Let's talk about another thing that I think is a big part about you and your business is your relationship with creators.
Yep.
You have some really, really good friends that are creators in this industry, and you're always trying to involve them in whatever you do.
Right.
When did that start? Like, can you give us a story on like the first creator that you created, like you started a relationship with, where you could be on that level with them?
Right. I think the first time my first lesson was with Joe Benitez, and I had just bought about 100 books. And I didn't know what Lady Mechanica was. I was in LA at a convention, but I just saw this long line. I'm like, oh, I'll just go buy 100 books of these. I have no idea what they are. Don't need to know. I'm a good salesperson. I'll sell it. And so I'm in line, and a friend of mine who owns the store is behind me. So I got this big stack, and Joe Benitez there, and I say, hey, Joe, Mr. Benitez, my name's Jesse. I just bought all these. I was wondering if you could sign this one. And he's like, you don't want me to sign the rest? I'm like, well, you got a big line. And he's like, no, you don't understand. You just buy 100 books from me. Can you sign these? I say, I tell you what, why don't I just leave these? You sign these when you have time. I don't want to hold up your sign. He's, thank you very much. Where's your store? I said, you know, it's not even about my store. It's you take care of your customers. Well, I'm talking to his handler next to him, and the next store comes up and he goes, Mr. Joe, how you doing? I own a store in XYZ. Hey, I'd like to have you come out for free comic book day. And the guy's like, well, first of all, it's Mr. Benitez, because I have no idea who the F you are. And second of all, you haven't even asked me how I'm doing, and you want me to do a store sign. So I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, holy cow. Your store is not the important part. It's your relationship with these creators. So Jesse James Comics over the last 11 years have had about 807, I'd have to look at the numbers, but it's about 872 people have signed at Jesse James Comics. The 872 people, we've never asked one person to sign at the store. These are all people that have called us and said, hey, we'd like to come out and do a store signing, whether it be Brian Polito or John Lehman or Raven Gregory or whoever has come out in the past. And we've had some big names at our store, Chad Harding and all these guys. But what you learn in the comic book world is friendships are better than getting people to come to your store and do a store signing. So even when we had Kevin Eastman, it was this kind of this, we didn't even know he was then be doing a signing at his store. He had asked a friend to, if that friend could do it and talk to me and then all this stuff. But what you realize is you have to treat them with respect. And if you treat them with respect, you should never have to ask them to do a store signing. Yep. They will come to you. I do so much promoting of creators around this nation, and I don't send them an email saying, hey, did you see what I did? Whether I'm showing cool books from that creator or whatever it is, I think at the end of the day, that's who you want to be. You don't want to be the person that, that guy only thinks about me as money. You want to think of, that'd be a great guy to do a project with. I've broken 2 Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah, I want to get into this story because this is a great story.
Yeah, and so you got 114 personalities you got on this book. We're trying to do the most creators to a comic book. And you got, Mark Silvestri on here and Paul Jenkins and Joe Benitez and Paul Stagel. And you start naming all these names, but they're sitting by Joe Blow, who hasn't even done a book yet. He's still doing them on, napkins. Yep. But at the end of the day, you need a certain amount of people, and you want grassroots people in all the events you do. And so at the end, our goal was 115. And we went through that list 100 times and could not figure out who we forgot. And I'm like, I have everybody checked on here. And I remember this 8-year-old girl walked by and said, what are you guys doing? And I said, well, we're breaking a Guinness Book of World. And, I'm under pressure, but it's an 8-year-old girl, so I don't want to show that pressure. And she goes, oh, this is awesome. What does the cover then look like? And we had realized we never got a cover artist. And the only person left in the whole convention was Rob Liefeld. And you just don't go up to Rob Liefeld and say, hey, buddy, can you do a cover for me for free and all that? And so I walked up, and I remember saying, hey, Mr. Liefeld, how you doing? He's like, great. And I go, I hate to ask you this. I'm trying to break a Guinness Book of World Record with 114 other people, and I don't have a cover artist. And I started to say, how did I tell him this isn't a commission piece and all that? He goes, well, we're wasting time. And so we went over there, and as I started walking away, he said, no, sit down and talk with me. So we've broken 2 Guinness Book of World Records with Rob Liefeld. But the whole point was it wasn't something that I think when people work with me, they don't second guess. They don't say, well, should I do that? So you create this universal thing that you're here for everybody. We don't tier our artists. You have, all of them are great artists. So I think that's how I've approached my whole life, is never put yourself above anybody, never put yourself above it, below anybody. You're just right in the middle.
Everyone's people.
Yeah, exactly. And you just keep on saying Mr. until that guy says, you know what? It's Greg. You don't have to call me Mr. Capulu, and that's how you do it. 2 quick stories. At one point we were the largest Walking Dead seller in the world. And
your store was?
Yeah. And
let me explain this real quick, because
sure.
this is a crazy part.
What does that just mean, like overall comic books?
You would walk into
Dead?
Jesse's store on New Comic Day, right? And all the, just like any other store, he would have all the regular books out. But
So
you would
new,
see,
I know this is another noob question. New Comic Days. That's like a weekly day.
every Wednesday.
Yeah, new comic books come out.
Yep. So you'd walk in, and he, just like every other store, he has his new comics, and he'll have like 10 to 20 books of each new comic. But then you'll look over and you'll see a table, and there'll be 150 to 300 Walking Dead
You just
issues.
got a shitload of them.
And then another table with 100 issues of Deadpool that came out. Like there were certain characters that Jesse really helped shoot into the stratosphere.
Yeah, Power Rangers and all that.
Is it because you like that, you enjoyed the comic? Or?
I enjoyed the comic, but I also understood my friends in business had to get numbers. And going against Marvel and DC, it's very tough to do that. So you pick great allies that would understand, listen, I'm probably losing money by buying this many Walking Dead. I'll sell them, but I'm willing to break even to help you out. And I was at this party in San Francisco for Image, and I was telling a joke with a whole bunch of store owners, and there's about 20 of us. I'm telling this joke, and here comes Kirkman, who's the creator of Walking Dead. Yeah. And he walks through the crowd, and he goes, hey, and he's with his VP, and he's like, we want to talk to Jesse. And he's kind of like, okay, you guys can go. And so he puts his arm around me, and we're walking away, and he goes, how long do you want me to pretend like I'm talking to you? And it's like, oh, for a minute. And that's the moment.
That's tight.
There's this, that's how business works. And
I love that, because I actually know who that is.
Yeah. And so you start going through all this, and you start thinking of all the time, all the things that you do, but when the moment comes,
that aha moment,
those guys also understand, oh, let me take care of my guy who's helped me out.
Well, what we talk about all the time is just about putting that good energy out constantly, and at some point that moment will happen. Yeah. And we fully believe that.
Let's talk about Robert Kirkman, though. Also, a perfect example is what you're talking about. Got him taking care of the guys that butter his bread. Sure. He just put out, so this whole COVID thing, all these stores has to shut down just out of health reasons. Right. Like, you know what I mean? You have to. Sure, because for whatever reason, they're shutting down. Well, Robert Kirkman knows these guys aren't making money, so he puts out a free issue to all the stores and says, you don't have to buy these. This
Walking Dead or a different
Negan, a special Negan. Yeah. So just like Jesse's saying, it happens. These guys will notice that.
Yeah, I think as a whole, in time of need, you have to find out. I think what the great thing about what Skybound Comics did, Robert Kirkman, was they understood that all stores need help.
Yes.
And so my concern is we have these auctions, and that money goes to 10 stores. Well, why don't we find a way how to help all stores, not just 10 stores? Yeah. We're in a day and age now where 4 months later, most of these stores, if you're not doing live shows, if you're not doing eBay, don't have a web page, you really can't help them anymore. They've kind of sunk themselves into that method of, well, it's only one day a week, it's Wednesday, where I'm saying you need to sell 7 days a week. We have a very simple motto. When we were carrying new issues, we were one of the top 5 single stores in the world, that we already know we're then do good on Wednesday. That's when new issues come out. How do we make Monday our best day, the worst day of the week?
Yeah.
And that's, if you accomplish that, that's how you're successful in the comic book business. But relationships, I will tell you, I always tell people, you have to be a good person who can turn away and ignore what they just saw. And if you can do that and keep your mouth shut and stay off Facebook and Twitter and just go on, that
Be
doesn't
professional.
affect, yeah, exactly. It has nothing to do with me, and I think you're fine at that point. So listen, this business, it's kind of like, you know, people worrying about their reputation. It's kind of like, you know, a debt collector worried about their Yelp report. It's like, you're a freaking debt reporter or debt company. You're going to have a 1 as your star.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a 5. If you're worried about getting a
No
5
shit,
as
yeah.
a debt collector, you got some serious problems there. And
Good
so
point.
what you have to do is you have to just take care of your customers and not worry about that other stuff.
The haters.
Yeah, the haters.
I actually, before we started this podcast, I would tell McClay, I go, once we start getting thumbs down and people
Yeah.
talking shit in the comments is when I know we're doing
Yeah.
well. And it's recently started to happen. Like, people will make fun of my laugh, they'll make fun of McClay, they'll make fun of my friend Oompa.
Sure.
And I don't give a shit. I think it's hilarious. I don't think twice about it. you
Yeah,
know?
I think what happens is if you acknowledge social warriors who are on their keypad and think they're, you know, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I have a simple rule. Listen, you spell my name Jessie and not the right way, Jesse. I can't mark it off that. Spell my freaking name right.
Yes.
And that's important to me. I just, you know, that
Don't
type.
fuck up the thumbnail, McClay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know what? At the end of the day, it's you have to take care of the customers that want to buy from you and want to be taken care of from you, and the ones that don't, cool, go buy from someone else. It's not really a big deal. If every comic book fan bought from me, I would be in trouble. Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't be able to service them. So
And there's enough money out there for everybody.
yeah.
I want to talk about one creator that you have a great relationship with, and that's Brian Polito.
Sure.
And big fan of Brian Polito for a long time.
Okay,
for
who's
those
that?
for those of you guys that don't know, Brian Polito is the creator of Lady Death. He has his own company, Coffin Comics, and he recently has been doing some amazing Kickstarter stuff. And one of the things that these creators are doing is they're going to Kickstarter to get
Oh
books.
yeah, I saw Todd McFarlane does that now too, right?
And Jesse is amazing, about talking about these things and these Kickstarter programs, and he got me into it. Some of the best stuff that you can get right now are in these Kickstarter things, and you're helping the creator.
You're
Right
talking about like toys and comics?
Yes,
or-
everything. Yeah. What do you think about the Kickstarter
So-
and that stuff?
So when first Kickstarters came out, and I just did an op-ed apologizing for one company, but originally what they were Kickstarters were done, they were made for small press, and small press that couldn't get into Diamond, the wholesaler. They couldn't afford to pay 50% commissions on a book. They just couldn't. And then what would happen is they would go into the catalog and they would just not be noticed. I mean, how you then be noticed if your company's, mushroomcomics.com? You're just not going to be able to sell anything. And so what happened is they started doing Kickstarters, and they started bringing in their own business. They started creating their own profits, and they had to learn how to ship and how to market and be relevant. And so what happened was Polito had decided that he wanted to get his Chaos customers back. His original company was
Evil
Chaos.
Ernie, Lady Death.
Purgatory, and all that. And so he had to find a way to get those customers. He wasn't going to get them through Diamond, that's for sure. And so he decided to do his Kickstarter.
I think you should explain Diamond for a second, because you were just explaining that to me before.
So Diamond
and
is
how they had, I guess, a monopoly, kind of in a sense.
well.
or-
I wouldn't say a monopoly. I think a monopoly, in true sense, a monopoly is they're the only persons that.
I was just using it as a loose term.
Sure. And what happens is 99% of the people that buy from Diamond think that's the only person you can get this product from. And so
Diamond's a distributor of comics.
Yeah, that's all
basically
they
the
do.
biggest distributor of comics.
yeah. So at this time, so Brian had approached me, great ally, one of my closest friends in the business. And he said, should we do this Kickstarter? And I said, sure, why not? Can we do it at your store? And I just happened to have the owners of Monster Drink in my store at the same time, which was a funny thing. And so, so Brian's goal was $15,000 over 30 days. And so the Kickstarter starts. There's a whole bunch of people. I believe about 6 minutes goes by, and he hits his 15,000.
Holy shit.
And even the Monster Drink guys are like, how do we get part of this? I'm like, well, you guys are making enough money. You don't have to worry about comics right now. So
once you hit your goal, do you have to cash out, or is it like GoFundMe where you can raise it?
Yeah, you keep on going.
Okay.
Yeah, so his traditional Kickstarter now does, when it's Lady Death, $350,000. So I think it's a great program for people that want to take their brand and their platform and they want to own it.
It's like that with everything, not just comics, like fucking video content, making films,
podcasts,
fucking everything.
Yeah.
Like you have to create your own shit and be your own boss and own your own content.
Right, exactly. And so having direct contact with your customer base, when a customer pledges to that thing, they can literally say, I took part of that.
Yeah.
Not, I went in the store and bought a comic book on Wednesday.
And he took out the middleman.
Yeah,
Exactly. Some
Diamond's
dickhead's not fucking making it in the background.
So this was happening at the time Archie Comics decided to do it. But Archie Comics at that time was a big company that was trying to do a Kickstarter, and they didn't understand it, so they were doing it wrong. They had already sold us the books as retailers, and then they were doing a Kickstarter direct to the customers saying, buy those books from us. So I got mad and, got on my high horse and had that canceled. So I recently apologized for that. But Kickstarters now, I would say a smart business person who's starting off a company, it's a great way to do it, because it's okay to fail in that arena. You shouldn't. You should have low goals, 500, 1,000, 1,500, whatever your goals are, and build from there. But I think when you're a business person and you start, because everybody does this, right? I got $25,000 to start my business. So you do everything like you're supposed to do it. And then a year from now, you realize, wow, I could have done my business for about $8,000. And because, I didn't have to do this. I didn't have to do this.
I always tell people that you don't need to go and go crazy, go to college, spend all this money to make money nowadays. All you need is the internet.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to make money nowadays with the internet. If you can't do that, then you have a problem.
Yeah. So crowdfunding, I think, is what I call third market again. Well, I call it second market, but kind of semi-third market. And it's people that have just decided, listen, I want to control what I spend. I want to see what I'm getting, and I want to be part of something. And you know what? Not only do I want to be part of it once, I want to be part of it 15 times and 20 times and 30 times. When Polito does his Sworn Fest and all of these Lady Death fans come across the nation, and we know them all.
Yeah.
It's like never met him before.
It's the Coffin Comics family, Lady Death Chaos family. It is one of the biggest, like, strong communities in comics. It's crazy, man. It is unbelievable. People like carry coins and patches and all this. It's amazing to think, because we have 2 million Amazing Spider-Man fans, but there's no Amazing Spider-Man convention. Yeah.
It's a comic convention, but Chaos Comics or Coffin Comics has now created that.
Oh, okay.
But I think what happens is, we were talking about this before the show, is you have to be the front man. You have to be your brand, and people have to relate to you. And if they relate to you, then I think that's why you're successful. I'll use myself as the example. You could go my last 500 posts, I'm not selling you anything. The only thing I'm selling you is my joy for comic books, my love for comic books, wearing crazy shirts, showing cool stuff I had bought. But I'm not
like
selling
140 copies of NFL Super Pro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 1,000 copies of it, whatever. Because you got to be relatable to people. I just talked to a buddy, and he said, listen, I just can't get the buzz that you get. I'm like, well, let's look at your page. Your last 500 things you're asking people to buy from you every single post. How about showing me what you had for lunch? And then we can go from there. And so people want to be able to relate with you, because they're the ones that open their wallet and say, here's my money, take it. Or they close their wallet and say, I don't like that
I know exactly what you're talking about. I see those people on Facebook all the
Yeah.
time who are just promoting their shit, but it's always buy. But you got to be relatable, like
Sure.
to find your audience, you know.
Right.
And most people could find an audience, you know. There's relatable people to. There's so many different kinds of subjects and things that you could get into, you know. So
Right.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many private emails I get, or on Facebook, where people send me a picture eating at Sizzlers. You know, it's my favorite place to eat. I didn't know people.
And they're going down, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. We're down to one left here, but
Where's that at? Is that the
it's
one in
on-
fucking
no, it's
downtown
on
or,
Indian school.
Yeah.
Indian school. So that's
Wow.
what I think what happens with Kickstarters as well. People have to really enjoy that personality, and
But that's probably the future of comics, right?
I would say
That is,
yeah. I would say
Small publishers.
So are publishers tripping out, do you think, because of that? A little
No,
bit?
I think not no more. I think publishers have to make decisions. If you look at Boom Studios, they're doing something with Keanu Reeves now. They're doing this and they're doing that. They sold most
Is he his own comic? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's called
Yeah.
Berserk. So he's writing that, but Netflix buys all of Boom's properties. So Boom kind of says, well, yeah, we can worry about selling those 30,000 books to the wholesaler, but let's focus on our brand and make our brand universally known. And that's important. Listen, at the end of the day, you have about 1,300 store owners, about 1,800 stores across the nation. Why are you different other than just selling comic books in your store?
Yeah, how do you stand out?
Yeah, that's the goal of a comic book store owner, is understanding that point of business. And then you have to be consistent, and you can't be the flip-flopper, and you gotta stay away from the politics. So there's a lot of things there's more to stay away from than actually what you can actually do. I learned this a long time ago. At that time I had about 52,000 people following me on Facebook, down to about 48,000. Which is still a lot, but I learned that I did a post about dogs, and I got more hate mail because I didn't talk about cats. And I realized, okay, that's it. We're just gonna stay neutral down the road, and people will push me and the right stuff, and some of the stuff that someone will send me, and I say, listen, I really don't care. Sometimes I do,
Yeah,
but it's
I know
like
what you're saying.
I'm just not gonna say anything. People come to me to get away from that, not to hear more of it.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yep.
It's a breath of fresh air.
Yep.
Can we talk about some of the books that you say you have, like some of these like different style of books that are away from like Spider-Man and the major
Yeah.
styles? Like, what are those books? And
So-
do you read those books too?
Oh yeah.
Like what?
Well, there's a couple companies right now that are putting out really good material. There's one publisher called Source Point Press. They're a small publisher, and there's a book that they have right now by a creator named Frank Gogol. And this creator, he's cool as hell. He's a young cat. His brother died of an overdose on heroin. His family was addicted to drugs, this and that. He put out this comic called No Heroin, and it's basically this female superhero fighting vampires, but it's like it's got the drug aspect
Right.
of it too. And it is just the story's great. His promotion was great.
Right.
He's great. He's like Jesse said, he's putting himself out there in front of the camera. He's doing all these interviews.
And you found this at his shop?
No, but that's the type of stuff
Yeah,
we're
that you
talking
have,
about.
yeah.
And
That's so
Jesse
awesome.
and
I like
Jesse
that.
Jesse really, really championed books, and I'll talk about one that Jesse was on before anybody, and that was Rick and Morty.
Yep.
Oh,
Rick and
really?
Morty
Yep.
put out a comic,
Oh wow.
and we would go in. Me and Kyle would go into
Yeah.
Jesse's on Wednesdays. We'd get our books, and Jesse would always tell us, "Hey, buy one of those." And most of the time, about half the time, we'd be like, "Okay, we'll take it out." He goes, "Buy one of these Rick and Mortys." We're like, "Nah, that's okay."
Yeah.
I swear to God, 2 months go by, it's a $200 book. 5 months go by, it's a $400 book.
Holy shit.
I mean,
Yeah.
and Jesse was pushing Rick and Morty before anybody, and it blew up. Shirtless Bear Fighter.
Yeah.
There was a book called Shirtless Bear Fighter, the craziest, silliest book. It was just a goof. And Jesse was like, "Yeah, I want to do an exclusive with." Or did they come to you for that?
They came to me for it. Actually, the story on that one was I was so busy.
Yes, I gotta go grab it.
The story on
Sorry.
Shirtless
You're
Bear
good.
Fighter is probably one of the stories where for a while I went with, I knew because when it came out, we sold all 500 copies in less than a couple minutes online. I had to race to the store because I thought there was an eBay glitch saying there's no way we sold 499 copies in a couple minutes.
Shit.
But what had happened was, at that time I think we had done about 15 or 16 store exclusives, which are only made for the store through Image, and we were kind of their big boy to go to. And I don't know what happened, but Jeff from Image had called me up and said, listen, we want you to do Shirtless Bear Fighter. And I said, that is the stupidest name of a comic book I have ever heard. And he said, come on, man, I need you to do it. I'm like, dude, whatever. And hung up the phone. And I remember the books coming in because we get them a day before. And I opened it up. I'm like, who the hell ordered 500 Shirtless Bear Fighters? And I remember picking it up to look at, and then I get to the back page. I'm like, who the F did a store exclusive and didn't even tell me? So I'm yelling at Jeff on the line about, you said, Jess, go ahead and do it. And I said, I don't recall that, but I said, whatever, we're a team player, whatever. And so that was one of those ones that we decided to do. So a store in their history will do about, maybe if they're lucky, 5 store exclusives. In our history, because they're hard to do. It's not easy to do. You just don't say, oh, here's the money. There's vetting. There's a lot of things that go on. We just finished doing our 288th store exclusive. So we've done more than anybody else in the history of comic books. When it came to Rick and Morty, we had learned that you had to somehow get into mainstream non-comic book fans that would come over and buy comics because their favorite TV show was a comic book. And how do you do that? Well, you got to have something that makes it hard to get. You have to get these exclusives. And so when we approached Oni Press to do Rick and Morty, I had said, listen, I just don't want to do 1 copy. I want to do 9 copies straight in a row. And we didn't realize that you had to go to Adult Swim to get approved. We're just a comic book store.
Because they own it, everything?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're not just that. And so at that time, we didn't think we were going to get approved. So me saying, oh, we'll do 9 issues, well, they're not going to approve me anyways.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, okay, you're approved. And I said, oh, for how many issues? And they're like 9. I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do it. And we actually, it's far enough out to where I could say this, that part of the deal was they couldn't do any exclusives for anybody else. Nice. And so everybody's getting denied because all of a sudden Rick and Morty was getting big. But
huge.
At the same time.
It was the talk of comics for like a year and a half.
Yeah, and at the same time, somehow someone had said, go watch the show Bob's Burger. And I thought, what is it about? And he's like, it's about this guy that sells burgers. I'm like, fine. And I watched it. And so I'm like, there's no way. I think that's Comic Central or something like that. I said, there's no way they're going to approve us on the same thing. And because everything we had done was really out of the norm, and here's all of a sudden this basic family selling hamburgers, kind of funny but not really funny, type deal. And so we got approved of that. So all of a sudden we had Rick and Morty coming out, 9 issues. We had 9 issues of Bob's Burger, and we had 11 issues exclusives for Power Rangers, all at the same time, all coming out at the same time, plus all my Image exclusives. So sometimes we would have 5 store exclusives out during the same week. But
and they all sold out.
And so what happens is you have to have you got to be a numbers person, but then you also have to say, how do I sell a Rick and Morty fan that doesn't buy comic books? Well, I got to do something with my name on it for it to even matter. And so
you also know your audience to suggest to him, like to him, like I'm sure McClay would like that.
Sure. So. Yeah. So I think my thing is, I always say a simple thing in business: don't go for the for sure's. If I know I can sell 500 copies of something, I better order 1,000, because I want to be able to sell those not for sure's, and I want to attract them to my business. The cool thing about having 288 exclusives, if we still have about 67 you can buy over the years, is when someone does join a comic book shopping network show and they want my exclusives, guess what? There's 68 sales just right there, because they have to have them all. Mm-hmm. And so
that makes a lot of sense. I always thought the hardest part was figuring out how many to order of every
Right.
kind of comic
Yes.
book and everything, and because the sales I'm sure differ depending on the time of year, all kinds of different factors.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to, and I'm going to use all these terms here, but you have to understand turn rate, sell through, and bottom lines. And once you get that into your head, ordering is easy. You don't even think about it. It's just you don't even know you wrote the number down.
Yeah.
But you got to understand your business. You got to understand your customers. And the one big thing you have to understand is real life comes into play.
Yes.
Customer loses his job. Something bad happens
Where they can't afford their comic book habit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we dropped new issues because we understood carrying new issues, because my bill every week was $10,000 to $12,000 a week.
Do you understand what he just said by how he dropped new issues? This is crazy, right?
Yeah, so like top comics that he would carry, and then
Well, every Wednesday new issues come out,
Yeah.
right? You're having to go through basically one distributor at the time,
Right.
who's the top distributor, to get these new issues. He just said he stopped selling new issues altogether.
Yeah, and we were
And just back issues.
right, and we were one of the first stores this century to do it and stay in business. Traditionally, if you drop new issues, you're out of business, and we were one of the first stores to say, I gotta make money. And if I spend $10,000 to $12,000 a week every week to make $2,000, when if I go buy a collection for $1,000, I make $5,000.
Yep.
And so it was the hardest thing in the world, because I had 450 subscribers every week coming in to get their books.
And that type of number is what other comic store. Listen, when you have 400 box holders or subscribers, so if what that means is, I would tell Jesse, I want.
No, I know exactly
okay.
what that means. I remember you getting all your boxes and shit.
So if you have that many subscribers,
So you pretty much had to tell them no. You're telling them
but
no.
you had that's guaranteed money. Comic stores dream for
So
something.
you're
like
like
that.
stuck in this position
Yeah.
to making that jump of doing the collections and stuff.
Right, exactly.
So were all those people pissed off, or did they?
I will tell you, after we talked to everybody, there's about 10 out of the 450 that were really mad. We found places for everybody to go. We found other stores to take over their boxes and all that. But at the end of the day, as a business person, you have to control your destiny. I come from big corporate. So when I came into the comic book industry, you learn real fast that the comic book industry has no rhyme or reason, no business 101. And a lot of store owners, and I'm going to put this at 98%, were comic book fans that wanted to open up comic book stores, where I was kind of that businessman who just happened to sell comics. And
I was gonna say that earlier.
Yeah.
You seem like you've been a hustler ever since you were like, you could have got in anything and probably excelled in it. To be honest with you.
Exactly. And so I just think, do something that you love, and at the end of the day, surround yourself around people that love doing it. And if you do that, you're fine. I think when you start to become an individual in the industry, and you don't have any allies, you storm up that hill carrying your own flag. That's not what you're supposed to do. Someone else should be carrying that flag for you and planning it. So that's kind of the where Kickstarters and all this comes into play. We're now telling the customer, be part of my project, versus, hey, come in on Wednesday, buy a book. Awesome. Thank you. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Yep.
Though that's not how it works anymore.
Well, the online thing seems like a comic buyer's dream. It's
It
just
is.
eBay, but fun, because there's
Yeah.
a face to it. Like you said, it feels like there's different stores that probably cater to different styles of books. So
And price
like, feels like you
ranges.
could probably get
Well-
anything you want, really.
Well, before we end the show, I definitely want to talk about It's Perfect Sagoo to Sagoo.
Sagoo,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sagoo, bro.
Inspector.
I have one question though.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, just
Okay.
before we wrap.
So he's got something big coming in the comic book at home shopping thing. Can you talk at all about it?
I can give you the general thing of what we're doing. So we've always wanted to do Comic Book Shopping Network Plus, and Comic Book Shopping Network Plus was a little bit more streamlined, organized, big box sales type thing, where instead of me saying, hey, I got this one Diet Dr. Pepper, I have 1,000 of these. And if I have 1,000 of these, because we buy 1,000 of these, they'll then be, instead of being $12, there's $6.50. And to do that, you have to have a different platform to do it. And because you don't want to change your platform that's on fire. Right now, Comic Book Shopping Network is probably one of the top 2 selling entities in the industry. So why would we want to mess with that? So our new one is more working directly with publishers. Some of these publishers will have their own shows, and they'll be able to sell their product, or they'll send the product to us and we'll sell it on their behalf. But instead of having that X-Men 94 for $100 and one person buying it and 10 people mad they couldn't get it, now we can say, listen, we got thousands of these, drop ship, how we do it, self promos. So the next stage is kind of the Amazon stage, and it's a whole new line that has never been done. So failure is we're kind of have this freedom of failure right now when we're doing stuff. But when we announce it in a bigger stage, people will be amazed that we have figured out to find a way to make publishers part of what we're doing as stores.
That's cool.
And what I think is the best part about it is, listen, no matter what you guys think, this is where comics are going, where the publisher has to have the direct relationship. And if somebody can create that path,
yep,
which is which I think is something you're doing, it just makes it easier for it to happen.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it's tough because if you're going a show that is selling 10,000 different items during the day and you're only one specific item, so if they don't like your one item, you don't even get that customer. Now we have a plethora of publishers that are doing it in exclusives and all this stuff. So our future is the future. And, you know, it's what the old saying is, you know, you can raise the bar as much as you want, or you can just be the bar and not worry about it.
Yep.
And that's where we're at. So
awesome. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Just before we wrap,
Okay.
if you could just explain a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Can you explain the film that you have on a continuous loop at your store?
Yes. So what is so funny about this was when I would go to work, and when I first started, my shifts were 18 hours.
Damn,
and it was too hard for me to the Raiders of the Lost Ark just ended. Oh, what do I want to watch? And then go through 100 videos. Oh, let me watch. Oh, I got to check this out.
You spend so much time trying to find a movie.
Yeah, exactly. I'm working harder on any of that.
Yeah, you don't have time.
Yeah. And so what happened was I said, what if I just played Star Wars?
Yeah.
Something I know I don't have to see and can visualize in my head while I'm working. And so we started playing Star Wars on VHS, just a little tiny TV. And I wanted to time myself during the day. And I said, the only way I could time myself during the day is know that after I've watched or played Star Wars 7 times, it's time to go.
Because it runs at what, 2.5?
Yeah, it's somewhere around
maybe?
there. Yeah, it's a little bit over that because documentaries and
okay,
yeah,
all the special shit.
Yeah, all the special effects, and then I don't consider the movie done to the last bong at the end of the credits. You know, that's not a full watch of the movie.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's one. So I knew if I watched it 7 times a day, I would be fine. You know, lunch in between and all that. And so I started counting. And when we got to 7,000 viewings, my VHS tape broke. We actually had a funeral for it in the back. All my buddies back there, we had little Deadpool figures burying it and all this stuff. And we have now watched it 22,300 times.
Damn.
And
that's got to be a record.
Yeah, it's an amazing feat. And it's clockwork for us. And so I think it's, again, you want to be relative to people. And so people will come in and they'll literally say, what number are you on? Or watching a 8-year-old kid sitting in a chair watching it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So,
which version do you have in it?
Geez. Well, we just have Hope. That's all we watch.
No, I mean, like, is it the special edition?
Right now we're playing the special edition where they interview Lucas for like 15 minutes and he doesn't have no personality. It's like, can we fast forward this? I'm like, no, we can't. We gotta listen to his dumbass answers, because every time the guy asks him, well, no, that wasn't really what I was thinking. Well, figure out how to say it more politely.
Yeah,
Come
he
on.
is. He is.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any like social skills. I don't think he doesn't know how to interact with people.
And
I've watched all his documentary
Yeah.
behind the scenes show and all his movies, and even the actors are like, when he directs you, like he doesn't ever say anything. He just kind of nods and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So we're on our second tape, and I think it's just
It's really cool though, man.
listen. If you walk into an Italian restaurant, what do you expect to see? You expect to see pictures of Frank Sinatra right here and all these guys and Elvis and all this. And I think in our store, we want people to see something that they say, oh my gosh, that's a staple of this store. So it's very important. I'll tell you a 10-second quick story. Someone last night or 2 nights ago, I had Star Wars #1 for sale, and the guy actually called Star Trek #1 on the screen, because we see the screens of the calls. And I'm like, dude, you're on your own, buddy. Ouch. Yeah, and the guy left. The guy left. I mean, he had to leave the show. It's that bad. So, fun stuff. And of course, we always hawk Trek on the show. But at the end of the day, guys, this has been amazing. It's cool to do a show where you're relaxed, and you don't have to talk about the tougher parts of the business. Yeah. And that makes it easy. So
we appreciate you coming on, man. How can they get to the Comic Book Shopping Network right now?
So there's several ways you can get to Comic Book Shopping Network. Typing in Comic Book Shopping Network. You can go to Facebook Comic Book Shopping Network, or you can go to Jesse James Comics. My show's called The Binge Bar. You can go to Binge Bar and follow that. Schedules are up there. So very, very easy. My webpage, Instagram. I'm on everything. There's nothing I'm not on. I even have a store on Kepler. It's called Kepler 452 or something, that you can go on that for a planet that we might have, 1,000 years from now. I already promoting that store.
Fuck yeah, dude. I love it, dude. I love that shit.
Yeah, so
that's badass, man.
Yeah, so I'm
and anytime
available.
you want to come on and promote and talk about that shit, dude, anytime you want. Any Sunday, man. Just let us know. We love talking to you, man. This is a blast for sure.
Awesome.
Thank you. Make sure you guys check out Jesse James Comics, and make sure you check out his show, The Binge Bar, on the Comic Book Shopping Network. Also, make sure you check out Absolute Geek Podcast. We do that every Friday night live at 7:30 AZ time. Check out Tales from the Flip Side, comicbookinvest.com, and make sure you guys go check out Mellow by Design, CBD. If you guys ever wanted to try CBD, this is the company you want to go to. All natural. They do it well, and this is a great product right here. This is everyday cinnamon. It's a cinnamon taste that you just drop underneath your tongue, and it is amazing. It works very well. 500 milligrams CBD. So make sure you check out Mellow by Design.
Awesome. You had the slate.
All right.
Man, thanks again for coming on. Thank you, McClay. And that is a wrap on episode 90 of The Bogcast.
Awesome.
Bang.